Hey there, everybody! It's Krispy from Dorkgasm here, and this is my person behind the games video. Yay! I was challenged by Sushifunk, and the premise is that I answer 10 questions about myself, or give 10 facts, or whatever, a mixture of the two. You can check out Sushifunk's info below. You should definitely check out her channel. She has some very awesome content. What else? The gameplay in the background is from Minecraft. It's the Gamers of YouTube server created by Undead domain, aka Jesse. You can also check out his information below as well. Yep, I was just building a house in the background. Figured it would be kind of nice footage to have in the background. Nothing too complicated you have to watch a ton of. Let's see. What else? Oh, I wanted to go ahead, too, to thank all of you for the best birthday gift ever. On my birthday, I hit 100 subscribers. I'm absolutely thrilled. I created the channel a few years ago, and it was, really slow growing, and it wasn't until the past couple months I met so many really cool people and have played a bunch of games with you guys, stuff I haven't even recorded just because it was for fun. And I just wanted to thank all my subscribers and to all of my friends out there on YouTube. You guys rock. So anyway, without further ado, here are my 10 facts about Krispy. Number 1. Who is Krispy, and where did Dorkgasm come from? Krispy is not my real name. My real name is Chris, and it was about 15 years ago online where I started going by the moniker Krispy, and it was only because there was always someone else named Chris, and so it wouldn't be confusing. I went ahead and just went by Krispy, and Krispy comes from my first name and my middle initial, which is P, so Krispy. I love it. It's like my online personality, even though it's really not much different than my real life personality. But it's great because people remember it. They always think of Krispy Kreme donuts or whatever. I like it. It's it's catchy. It's unique for me. But yeah, that's where Krispy comes from. And Dorkgasm is actually a group of guys. It was started by Rob, who you may know from the podcast, who hosts the podcast. He just came up with the idea, got a couple friends together, probably almost 8-9 years ago, and they recorded a small podcast at the time. It was really just a bunch of friends talking about whatever. And a couple years ago, after a hiatus, I came to Rob and asked him if he wanted to start it back up, but do it legit, like have an actual podcast that follows a certain structure, although it's not a very rigid structure. And he said sure. So yeah, that's where Dorkgasm comes from, and I post under the Dorkgasm name for on Twitter and on YouTube currently, even though some of it's personal. But yeah, I mainly do the video editing and the audio for the podcast and the audio editing, all that stuff basically. And I'm also on the Twitter. That's me usually. As far as personally, I am a husband, a father, a full-time employee, house owner, pet owner. I'm living the American dream. Picket fence and the dog and the 2 cars and the cat and the children. It's great. I love it. I love my job. I love my family. I wish there were more hours in the day and then I could do more content for YouTube. It's very hard to, you come home from work and you're tired and then you have to make sure the kids are fed and all that. Chores, upkeep of the house, and then after all the kids go to bed and everything is done, then I can finally sit down and record gameplay and edit. So yeah, I wish I could to put up videos a ton often, but I wouldn't give up anything in my life, right now. So it is what it is. But I think I can fit it all pretty well. Number 2, the first console I ever owned was an Atari 2600. Yep, I'm that old. I'm trying to remember. I had a couple of games. Was it Tank or whatever? Or it was Combat. Something to that effect. It was a game that had 90 different versions of little combat games with airplanes and tanks and whatever. I had Jungle Hunt. I even had that Abomination E.T., which was terrible and broken and awful, but I still played it because I didn't know any better. As I grew up on Nintendo consoles. I had an NES, Super NES. I even had the N64. I was one of those weird kids that had the N64 instead of the PlayStation. I thought that would be good to have something different from my friends, when in fact that was the wrong way to go about it. I should just gotten the console my friends played with, and that way we could trade games more often. But I was a kid and I was dumb. So, but now, yeah, I'm definitely in the PlayStation camp currently. I love the Xbox 360. Now I'm part of the PC Master Race, though, when it comes to gaming. There's just so many more options. So yeah. Number 3, what I wanted to be when I grew up. So when I was a kid, like most kids, you have the firefighters, police. That was when I was really, really young. But probably starting about 10 or 11, I really wanted to become a marine biologist. And there was a show. It lasted maybe a season. I think it got canceled. It's about a family, I think, that moved to Australia, and they worked with dolphins, and I wish I could remember the name. Maybe I can figure it out, put it up here. But anyways, I decided one day, yeah, I want to do that. I want to be a marine biologist, and I want to work with dolphins. And that was great. Science, math, okay. I could work on that. And then I discovered I have the fear of murky water. I don't like open murky water, and the things that can move past you in the murkiness freaked me out. So I settled on not doing that any longer. And it wasn't long after that I wanted to become a puppeteer. Jim Henson, worked for the Jim Henson Creature Shop and all that. And I had that dream all the way up through almost college. I used to do karaoke with Kermit the Frog and sing Rainbow Connection. I even researched colleges. There's certain colleges out there where you can actually get college degrees in puppetry. It was really cool. The only problem was that I didn't really craft my own puppets, and that's kind of like a requirement. I'm not very handsy, artsy fartsy, even though I do a lot of graphic design. I'm not really good with arts and crafts, unfortunately. And after that, I wanted to work in web design and content. It was more up my alley and everything, and that's actually kind of what I do now. I work for an insurance company and I work on the web content there. So yeah, I kind of evolved into what I wanted to be when I grew up. So a part of me still wishes I could do puppeteering, but I mean, life is long, right? Well, it's short, but it's long enough. So who knows in the future? Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I can dig up some of the old footage. I don't think there's much, but I'll try. I'll see what I can find. Number 4, I was super shy and anxious as a child. I was very quiet. I didn't say much. And I was very anxious. For me, what's the famous quote? How does it go? It goes, "It's better to be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt." So I always thought I didn't want to say something stupid. I didn't want to get made fun of. I was very self-conscious. So I wouldn't say much at all, which made people think other things. If you don't converse with people, they don't really know what to think about you, and they just make up their own stuff. So yeah, I was a real late bloomer. I was bullied a lot, particularly in middle school, because I was a shrimp. I was very short. I didn't hit 5 feet until my freshman year of high school, which is the first year of high school for any Europeans out there. But now I'm 6'2". I'm tall. You know, completely opposite. But now I didn't start really breaking out of my shell until I was probably a junior in high school, and that's when I started to really discover humor and use humor to kind of break the ice and get to meet people. So yeah, and I'm still working on it, and that's kind of one of the reasons I created the YouTube channel in the first place, and I wanted to do the podcast because I was so shy and silent as a kid. I would visualize words in my head, so I would, when I'm reading or whatever, I have these visual representations in my mind. And the problem with conversing with someone, particularly when you didn't have a lot of practice when I was younger, is that I have the actual visual representation of words in my head that I want to say, and then I have to convert that into actual syllables and get them out. And so I suffer from verbal constipation, as I call it. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I think particularly this upcoming generation may kind of suffer from, because we all talk on the internet, right? We all speak in Twitter, which is like 140 characters. We type. So, I think we're becoming a society that actually talks less and types more to each other. And that could be a problem later on, trying to actually converse with words to one another and make sense. So I'm working on it. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to be less anxious about speaking, particularly in front of other people. I'm still very reserved. I may not speak a lot when I first meet someone. I'll throw in a little quip here and there, and other than that, it's kind of like you get that awkward silence, and then I'll ramble on because I can't figure out what I want to say, or I don't want that silence to overtake the entire conversation. Number 5, my favorite author is Stephen King. I'm trying to remember the first Stephen King book I ever read. It was probably the Dark Tower series, The Gunslinger. But I've pretty much read almost every other Stephen King book out there, except for some of like the huge, the hits of his. I never got around to. Like, for some reason I haven't read The Stand still. I've watched the miniseries. I know what it's all about and everything, but yeah, I don't know what it is with The Stand. I really need to go back and read that. But yeah, I love the Dark Tower series. 11, 22, 63, the book, the JFK time-traveling book or whatever that they're turning into a miniseries. That's actually a fantastic book. Shawshank Redemption and Green Mile are also one of those 2 of the books that I love of his that were turned into fantastic movies. In fact, those are movies I have to watch all the time when they're on. And some other notables, I love Neil Gaiman. I'm really happy American Gods is actually going to be becoming a TV show here soon. I love the Sandman series. Brandon Sanderson, who, if you don't know, took over for Robert Jordan in the Wheel of Time series. He's fantastic. He actually has his own... he's got a couple out there. There's the Mistborn trilogy, but there's also the Stormlight Archives he's in the middle of writing. Good about putting those out, but that's a fantastic series. I highly recommend it. It's got a fantasy feel, but it's also a slightly alien world. So it's got a neat twist on it. Well written. It's one of those page turners. You read a chapter about someone, and then you just flip ahead to see who the next chapter's about, and you're like, oh, okay, I'll read that one too. And then next thing you know, it's 5 hours later, and you've read the whole book. And also Patrick Rothfuss, the Kingkiller Chronicles. Amazing series. Number 6, my favorite game ever. It's kind of hard. I played a lot of games in my life, but the one I probably put the most time to out of all of them is WoW, World of Warcraft. I'm 6 years sober, right? Or 5 years sober now. So sober now. It was after a couple months after Cataclysm came out that I stopped playing. I haven't been back since. My wife was threatening to start again. I'm begging her not to, because that would be bad for me. My current favorite is Skyrim, though. I've put a ton of hours into Skyrim. I love that I can be any class I want to be. The open worldness, like I can go and start running around to different places, and it all levels up with you, so it doesn't really matter too much where you go in the beginning. My favorite console game, though, was probably Star Fox. I played the heck out of that game. I love that game, the original for Super NES. I had gotten it for the NES for Christmas, the Super NES for Christmas, and I went out and bought Star Fox with my own money. So I played the heck out of that game. Number 7, I played the trumpet in high school. I was also in the marching band as a band geek, and that was probably the best thing for me. I had mentioned earlier that I was very, very shy and anxious, and I remember it was like the first week. The band camp always took place before school, so I was a freshman, hadn't even started school yet. It was a summer camp, and so they had a auditorium kind of place where we would practice, and that night we'd go and we could have, they'd have a party and dance and stuff, and I'd be just sitting in the corner with my, I had my backpack on like a total goob. It was awful. I was very awkward. And then there would be just people that, just approached me and then talk and then kind of needle me into joining the group and then, kind of dancing around a bit, try not to worry about looking like a fool with my pants on the ground. No, a marching band was fantastic. I met a ton of cool people. It was like the biggest gang in school. No one really picked on you because the marching band always had your back. didn't matter how annoying you were or, whatever. When it came to it, the marching band stuck together. And yeah, it was a great time. Unfortunately, I don't play the trumpet anymore. I still have it and everything, but I don't play anymore, unfortunately. I don't know, maybe I'll pick it up again. I also used to play a little bit of piano too, so we'll see. There's only so many hours in the day. Number 8. I mentioned I was in the marching band, but I also was pretty big into music in the 90s. That's when I was in high school, and I was big into 90s grunge music. So Stone Temple Pilots, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Smashing Pumpkins, you name it, man. I'm into it. In fact, I still listen to Lithium is the grunge channel on Sirius Radio. I listen to that all the time still. I appreciate all types of music, except for country. I can't get into country. I don't know why it is. It's the electric twang guitar is an affront to music as far as I'm concerned. But I love folk music. I love bluegrass. It's just the modern country I'm not a fan of. I love classical music, jazz. But yeah, 90s grunge, that's where all the nostalgia is. It makes me think of like high school, and I was a total flannel wearing, ripped jeans, Converse wearing kind of guy. The only thing I didn't have going is the long hair, but other than that, yeah, it's totally grungy. Number 9. I love animation. I have since I was a kid. I grew up obviously on Looney Tunes and Hanna-Barbera, but it wasn't until like the late 90s that animation really started getting good. Like when you had DuckTales, the Disney ones, you had like Batman, the animated series, and throughout the 90s, man, I loved Saturday morning cartoons. Everything was great. You had The Tick and Animaniacs and Tasmania, Tiny Toons. I mean, it was just the 90s were it for more Monday or for Saturday morning cartoons. And even when I was in college, I would get up and I'd watch Men in Black and Superman Animated Adventures. It was great. I thought it was fantastic. I loved it when Comedy Central used to have their Sunday night animation with like The Critic, and they'd also play reruns of The Tick and everything. And even today, I'll watch everything animated, like Phineas and Ferb with my daughter, and the new Ninja Turtles on Nickelodeon. It just fascinates me. I don't know what it is about cartoons. I think it takes a tremendous amount of talent to do that. And back in the 70s and 80s, it was they took a lot of shortcuts, and you kind of knew that with Hanna-Barbera. But now it's just amazing what they can do, and I still love it. I love anime. I try and watch as much as I can, but unfortunately, it's one of those things. There's only so many hours in the day, only so much you can watch. But yeah, no, I love particularly the Pixar films and the Disney films. I'll go and see all of those if I can. Number 10, I have a unique talent. It's not huge as far as talents go, but it's one of those things that people will be like, what did you just do? I can actually wiggle my ears individually. So instead of just both at the same time, I can wiggle the left, right, back and forth. Or yeah, it's a weird, odd thing. I don't know what the muscle structure is in my ears, but it's weird. And so that basically sums me up. I'm very odd. And that's about it for being Krispy. I don't know what else there is. I mean, I guess it's not terribly exciting stuff. I've led a pretty uneventful life, but a good life so far. I'm looking forward to more. I guess I'm supposed to tag other people to also make their own person behind the video games videos. I'm a little late to the party, and so a lot of the folks I know pretty well have already done theirs, but there are a few. So I'd like to challenge Fraser and Ashley from Party Play Gaming, BnG from BnG Games and Video. Congratulations, B, on Little B, by the way. I'd also like to challenge Undead Domain, aka Jesse, as well. So I'll go ahead and tag you guys below. And that's it. I'd like to thank you guys again so much for watching the video and listening to me ramble on about myself. I don't know if it's entertaining or not. I don't know. Probably not. But anyways, thank you, and thanks again so much for being so supportive and being awesome. You guys are great, and I'll talk to you later.